22-year-old salesperson Amy Domzlowski is suing her ex-boyfriend, 27-year-old collections specialist Brian Wilson, for medical bills resulting from a fight. Amy says Brian burned her face with a slice of pizza.
Yeah, this is case number 58 on the calendar in the matter of Domzlowski versus Wilson. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated. Ma'am, have a seat, please.
Ms. Domzlowski, according to your complaint, Mr. Wilson used to be your boyfriend. He's not your boyfriend anymore, and he assaulted you twice. After he assaulted you, I assume you had nothing to do with him.
That's correct.
How long were you involved with him before this assault?
Well, I dated him originally back when I was in high school.
How old are you now?
I'm 22. When I had first dated him, I was 16. And then we broke up, and we got back together in August 11th of 2004.
When was the assault?
January 10th, 2005.
Tell me about it.
Well, Brian and I were at a bar, and we had gotten into an argument. He mentioned something about a friend of his who I had dated while we were separated, and how he was going to come back into town, and he wanted to see how I was going to react to his friend being back in town to see if, you know, we're going to try to reunite.
Mr. Wilson, you're going to get a chance.
Okay.
Right?
Yes, ma'am.
So we were arguing about that, and I told him, you know, I wouldn't cheat on you. I care too much about you. And so he left the bar. He wound up leaving. So I went after him to make amends, you know.
Why would you go after him to make amends? What had you done wrong?
I hadn't done anything wrong. I was just trying to talk to him, you know, just to make sure, you know, that we were okay, because I didn't want it to end on that.
What had you been drinking?
A beer, a Corona.
And you?
A Corona.
How many?
I had like 1 or 2.
Let's say 2.
Okay.
What about you?
I had probably about 1.5 before I got fed up.
Let's go to 2.
2.
So you've had a couple of beers and you're arguing at the bar. You couldn't argue at home?
That's how it goes every time we went out. Every time we went out, it was a big scene.
Okay. So now you're outside trying to make amends for something that you didn't do. What happened outside?
Outside, I went to my car to retrieve his jacket because he was like, I'm walking home, and I offered him a ride, and he refused. So
what did you say? You said, don't walk, I'll drive you home?
Yes, I said, I will take you to the house. And
how far is the house from the bar?
About 5 minutes driving.
How long walking?
I don't know, like a half an hour maybe. I'm not really sure.
How long a walk is it?
Oh, half hour.
Good. So we agree on that. So you wanted to walk home?
Yeah.
So even though he's walking home without his jacket, you went to the car, got his jacket, and followed him?
Yes.
Go ahead.
That's when we started arguing some more. He pushed me. I went into a tree. My face was bloody.
How did your face get bloody?
I was scratched up. He hit me.
You didn't say he hit you. You said he pushed you into a tree.
Yeah,
when did he hit you?
He pushed me into a tree, and he hit me also afterwards.
He hit you with an open hand or a closed hand?
Open hand.
What happened then?
I was walking along the street by the bar, and I was spitting blood. I had blood coming from my mouth. So that's when I called my sister, and I needed her to come pick me up to give me a ride back to my car because I had walked a little. It was a distance when I was walking with him because we were talking.
You were talking or fighting?
Well, we were fighting.
Go ahead.
And I was crying, spitting up blood. My face was all bloody, so I had my sister come pick me up.
How long did it take her to get there?
She was at the bar as well, so it took her like 2 minutes. She was there real quick because she heard how upset I was.
So you and your sister came in 2 separate cars?
Yes.
She came, picked you up in her car, and what did you do when she picked you up in the car?
She was cleaning my face. We cleaned my face off.
And then?
And then I went back over to the house to collect my belongings to leave. And he came in, he had a piece of pizza in the microwave, and he intentionally threw it.
Just a second, hold it. You're home first, is that what you're telling me?
Yes.
And then he came home.
He came home while I was packing my belongings.
How did the pizza get into the microwave?
The pizza was already there, Your Honor.
Pizza was in the house already, and he was taking it out to heat it up?
Yes.
So he heated up the pizza in the microwave. Go ahead.
And then we continued arguing, and that's when he intentionally threw the pizza at my face.
How did he do that?
He had the pizza in his hand, and he threw it.
And it hit your face, and it burned your face?
Yes.
Okay. So he left the bar, Amy, to get away from the argument and was walking home. So what I want to know is how the argument continued.
We were arguing about financial problems.
How did it start? Who said what to whom?
I believe it was I who had said something in regards to the financial.
That sounds right. So what did you say financial?
Basically that I do a lot for him and he doesn't respect me. You know, basically trying to show him that why would I cheat on him when I'm going grocery shopping, all the bills are in my name.
So you wanted to continue the discussion?
Yes.
You weren't
I
just
wasn't trying to argue.
Shh. You wanted to continue the discussion, not just pack up and leave, right?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay, and he's sitting there. He's not saying a word to you.
No, he was saying things.
Not before you approached him to start the discussion again, right? I'm just figuring out what's happening here, Amy.
Okay, that's correct.
Do you understand? Mm-hmm. I'm not making any excuses for him if he hurt you. I want you to get real with what was happening that night. What was happening that night was you weren't letting it go. Because if you're assaulted and you call your sister because you were so upset and your sister comes to get you in the car, then you say to her, do me a favor, follow me to Mom's house because I'm going to stay there. Tomorrow I'll get the police and go over and pick up my stuff. But if you want to go back and continue the discussion with him, and you knew he was going home because he said, I don't want to talk to you anymore. I don't want to be involved with you anymore. I'm walking home to cool off. So you knew he was going home, and you followed him home.
No, because I figured that I would get there quicker than he would and have my stuff already packed and ready to leave.
So let's see what we have. We have a timeline here. You call your sister on the phone. She has to get out to the parking lot, get into her car, start the car, come and pick you up. A couple of minutes. Then you said she helped clean you up because you were bleeding. Let's say that took another 10 minutes. So now you've got 5 minutes before he's going to be home.
Yes, Your Honor.
And you go home anyway. So you expected him to be home. There's no question in my mind. So don't tell me you didn't expect him to be home yet. You expected him to be home. And you wanted to continue the discussion because you weren't ready to let it go.
Because I didn't want to be accused of something that I would never do.
What difference does it make? Somebody hits you in the face, as you allege he hit you in the face. Who cares whether he accuses you of being Mata Hari? What difference does it make? You want to get away from him.
Yes.
You don't go back into a situation where there's been, according to you, violence, and start the discussion all over again by telling him, why would I want to do something bad to you? I cook for you, I clean for you, I work for you, I do everything else for you. That's what you were telling him, right?
Yes. Why would you do this to me? Basically, that's what I was trying to say, Your Honor.
What difference does it make?
Judge Judy continues in a moment. Amy Domzlowski says ex-boyfriend Brian Wilson owes for burning her face with a slice of pizza. Brian says the argument started when he saw Amy dancing with another man.
Now the ball is in your court, Mr. Wilson. Don't smile at me, because let me explain something to you. How old are you?
27.
27. I'm a few years older than you are.
You don't look
and
it.
You're very, very sweet, Mr. Wilson. It's not going to help you any. And you know how long I've been eating pizza? A lot longer than you have. I never knew a pizza to fly off a plate and hit somebody in the face. How many flying pizzas did you know in your years? Never.
0.
We never knew a flying pizza. So with that in mind, Mr. Wilson, let's go back to, you're in the bar with Miss Amy.
Right.
Both had a couple of beers. Now.
I saw her dancing with somebody on the dance floor. I didn't want to stand for it, so I left the bar.
So you saw her dancing with somebody?
Right. Supposedly it was just a friend, but, you know, I don't know that friend, so it makes me feel uncomfortable. So I left the bar. I'm walking down the street. She comes running up behind me, you know, hit me, trying to pull on my shirt. She actually ripped the shirt that I had underneath my button-up shirt.
Well, tell me what she said to you as she was pulling on your shirt.
What the is my problem? Why are you leaving? You know, so as I'm walking home, she's still pulling at me, you know, yelling, you know, because when she drinks and is under the influence of other drugs, you know, she's a live wire.
Was she under the influence of other drugs?
I say so.
What other drug?
Marijuana.
Did you see her smoking marijuana that day?
Yeah.
Were you smoking marijuana
No.
that day? But she was?
Right.
Okay, keep going.
So as we continue to the house, finally, you know, she gave up. You know, after my shirt's ripped, she goes back to the car.
So you don't know anything about hitting her in the face?
I didn't. She might have caught like some buttons from trying to pull on my shirt and me just defending myself to, you know, just so I can walk home and avoid the whole situation, because we could have fought if we really wanted to fight in the bar.
Okay.
You know, but that's the whole reason why I walked home, so I didn't have to do that.
Go ahead.
So then once we get home, I'm already home and sitting in the living room. She comes in and it continues again. She's not trying to talk it out or anything like that. She's yelling. You know, a little pushing, I got the pizza in my hand.
Now let's go through this slowly.
No problem.
Little pushing. How did the pushing get started?
Defense pushing. Defense pushing. You know, when she talks to you here. She don't talk to you from a distance.
So you're pushing her away from you.
Right, as I'm walking from the kitchen to the living room, back and forth. So finally I had the plate in my hand, and, she's trying to, tangle with me, and it accidentally hit her in the face.
I assume you felt very sorry when you found out she had been burned.
I drove her to the hospital the next day.
Is that right?
No. I called him when he was at work, and I said, I need to go to the hospital. And he said, well, come pick me up from work, and we can go to the hospital.
Had you stayed at your mother's that night?
Yes.
Who else lives in your mother's house?
My mom, my stepbrother, and my stepfather.
They couldn't take you to the hospital?
No, I was going to go by myself, and he said, I'll go with you, because he felt bad.
Why would you want the person who assaulted you to go with you to the hospital?
He said he would go with me.
And when you got to the hospital, what happened?
They looked at it. They said it looked really bad. They referred me to a plastic surgeon.
Did he just take you to the hospital and take you back to your mother's house?
I was driving, so I took him back to his house. We went and got the prescription filled.
So first you went and got the prescription filled?
Yes.
And then you drove him back to his house?
Mm-hmm.
What happened when you got back to your house?
Nothing. Everything was ordinary. It was just an ordinary day, watching TV, hanging out.
The two of you?
Yeah, making plans for the weekend.
What plans were you making for the weekend, Amy?
We weren't making plans for the weekend.
What were you doing that afternoon?
We were just talking, and he was telling me how sorry he was and that he would pay my bill for me, my hospital bill.
That takes 2 seconds. How long were you there?
Probably like an hour, 2 hours, not even.
She was there all day. Because I remember, because she had to put the ointment in my bathroom, and she had to put it on. So she even slept over.
She did?
Right. She had to put the ointment on at my house and get salt water and pour it on the burn, things like that. And she did that all at my house.
Amy, do you have any unreimbursed medical bills?
I have my medical bill right here.
How much was the medical bill?
$377.38.
How much do you owe on it?
The full amount, I haven't paid it because he said he was going to pay it.
Well, I think you should pay it. But you're suing him for $5,000.
Pain and suffering. Every time I look at I'm going to need plastic surgery. I haven't even went to the plastic surgeon and even got an amount estimated.
Well, then I can't help you with that, my dear. I can't help you with something that is speculative. What I don't understand is, if someone is frightened that someone is abusive and assaultive, they don't call them the next day to go to the hospital. They don't have them take them for the prescription when they have a sister and a mother and a stepfather and a brother and alternatives. Do you understand?
Yes, I understand that.
Good.
I was just calling him to tell him that I needed to go to the hospital, how severe it really was. That's the only reason why I called him, and he said, I'll go with you.
You don't call.
And
the only call you make is to the police. Did you do that?
No, because he has a son. I didn't want anything to happen.
Amy, he's going to pay your medical bill. You have a $377 medical bill. Your pain and suffering you're going to have to live with. I assume that you're not together anymore. Is that right?
Not at all.
Very good. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $377. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out. All parties in the matter of Youngman versus Caffey. Step forward, please.
22-year-old emergency medical technician Thomas Youngman is suing his ex-girlfriend, 21-year-old bank teller Jacqueline Caffey, for the balance on a car and bank overdraft fees. Jacqueline claims Thomas paid off the car note without consulting her.
Mr. Youngman, Miss Caffey was your girlfriend for a while, and in 2003, according to your complaint, you were foolish enough to co-sign for a car loan for her.
Yes, ma'am.
And when you co-signed for the loan, it was her car. The car was titled in your name, is that right?
Yes.
And she agreed to make the payments on the car.
Yes, ma'am.
And she did make the payments on the car until when?
Until the car got totaled. There was one last payment to make after the insurance paid it off.
And how much was that one last payment?
$550.
Your complaint is that Ms. Caffrey decided not to make the last payment. You had already broken up at this point. And
Correct.
how long had you been apart?
We've been apart for almost a year and a month.
And you knew nothing about the car because it was her car and she was making the payments.
Correct.
After she totaled the car and stopped making the payments, they came after you because you were the co-signer on the car. and they took the money out of your bank account. How much did they take out?
$550.20-something.
Then can you explain why you're suing her for $2,000?
Because there were some late fees acquired with that, in the negative balance fees.
And how much were the negative balance fees?
$100.
Anything else?
My credit was damaged, so I figured the rest of it could be for that.
Okay. Now, Ms. Caffrey, you say you've paid enough, and he co-signed for the car, and therefore it was his responsibility. I'd like you to explain that to me.
He co-signed for it. I have the proof of it.
There's no question he co-signed for it.
He co-signed for a car loan, and I made every single payment. This was a $13,000 loan, and he paid $500, in late fees, $650. And he drove the car, too, when we were together.
You mean in 2003?
Yes.
So what you're saying is he drove the car in 2003, and therefore it was his responsibility to make the last payment.
I don't owe him anything. He paid.
Would you do me a favor and answer my question?
Yes.
I'll decide whether you owe him something or not. I'm trying to figure out your defense. Tell me what your defense is.
I do not owe him because he...
That's a conclusion. That's a legal conclusion, that you do not owe him. So far, we have the following set of facts stipulated. He agreed to co-sign a loan on your promise that you would make the payments on the car. That fact is buttressed by the fact that you did, in fact, make payments on the car consistently, even after the two of you were no longer together. You made the payments on the car consistently, which supports his statement that you promised to make the payments until you totaled the car. Then you stopped. There was still a payment owing, $550. Now, I'd like your defense as to why you do not owe that $550.
I had called the bank over and over and tried to figure out how much I owed. And by the time I figured out how much was owed, because they kept telling me different numbers of how much was owed, and then she said, well, just hold off on the payment and we'll get back to you on it. So when I finally got the letter in the mail that I owed $550, he had already paid it. I didn't ask him to pay it. He had already chosen himself to go ahead and pay it.
They took it out of his bank account.
That's not what... When I asked her and he told me that they froze his account, that never happened.
I want to tell you something. Mr. Youngman?
Yes, ma'am.
You're going to get your money.
Okay.
You are also a very, very fortunate man. Do you understand?
Yes, ma'am.
Really lucky. You could have been married to this warped thinking, allowed children to reproduce with this warped thinking. So I want you to consider yourself very lucky. Okay?
Thank you.
Good. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $650. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.